Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. I'm your host, Mari Riesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Alison Rothman, body-centered holistic coach and host of Embodied and Awake podcast. Please enjoy Alison Rothman. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity podcast. Today, I am here with Alison Rothman. She is a body-centered holistic coach and the host of Embodied and Awake podcast. Welcome. I'm super excited for you to be here.
Thank you so much. This is it's an honor. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for saying yes. I love it.
Oh, any excuse to talk, you know.
Perfect. Exactly. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. To talk to another adult. Yes.
Talk to another adult about fun, interesting things. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Well, if you wouldn't mind taking a minute or so and sharing a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So as you said, I am a body-centered holistic coach, and I have been immersed in the world of natural health and wellness for about 25 years. And so at this juncture of my career, I've taught yoga, I've led women's retreats, I run groups. I was a body worker for 20 years. But at this juncture of my career, I am really focused on bringing it all together in my coaching practice. I have a lot of a strong background in somatic therapy, various forms of. And so I work one-on-one, primarily with women, and I run women's groups through Zoom right now, thanks to COVID. Yes. And I'm also a single mom of a almost 12-year-old. So that's my life. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. And I love the somatic connection. But for people who might not be as familiar with somatic and body-centered, can you say a little bit more about like specific body-centered holisticness? What
it is?
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if that's a real word, but I like it. So, it's a coaching that is, we get out of our heads and drop into our bodies through tracking sensations, through movement, through various ways of working with our nervous systems, so that we can come more into alignment with our essence, with the truth of who we are, with our embodiment is an experience of being in alignment. And so through the coaching, and like I said, I have a lot of tools in my toolbox. I draw from so many different modalities to support women in feeling connected to themselves and learning how to resource themselves in their bodies in the present moment, no matter what's going on in their outer world, no matter what, I have experienced a lot of trauma in my life, and my work definitely has been influenced by those highly traumatizing experiences where I was forced to come into my body in the moment when I wanted to flee, the fight or flight response.
Yeah.
So, and addiction recovery. I have 25 years of recovery from an eating disorder. And so using all of these different methodologies to heal and to learn how to sit with the discomfort that is naturally coming up in our human experience, and where most of us want to reach for something. Right. So to learn how to just sit with these experiences, breathe with them,
Yeah.
ground ourselves, and make choices from that place. It's not easy, it's
Yeah.
layer by layer by layer. And, I'm making it sound so, oh, no problem. No, this is work, and
Yeah.
that's why I always say, this is not, my work is not you tear the Band-Aid off and like, okay, all good, or you just talk about it and things start shifting. You have to actually do some deep dives into oneself. So I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for like explaining the body-centered component and somatic and how it works together, and how, I mean, just hearing you talk, it sounds like there's so much creativity that goes into that experience. I mean, when we think about creativity and stepping off the path of least resistance, like that's what you're asking people to do, to step off that path of least resistance and dive into their experience, their present moment, their their sensations, what's happening in their body, their discomfort, uncertainty. And I feel like there's so much creativity that's being asked of people to step into that space. So
there is, and there's no formula, and that's, I had a client a week ago say, could you just give me a step-by-step? And I'm like, I can't, I just can't, because that's just not how it works. And I approach each individual in a very unique way, in a very creative way.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like, the depth of my studies and experience and having all these tools to come together to meet whoever it is really supporting their creative evolution, giving them tools. And it may be, okay, I work with this, I'm in my body in this moment, but then I forget, and then I have to come back to it, and I have to, so it's like recycling practices too. And it's, so it's just, it is very creative.
And that practice piece of like, where you're going to forget, you're going to have moments where you're not in your body, you're not in the present moment. Can you catch those moments? Can you catch them more frequently? Those pieces, I think, so important and so helpful. So,
and I know, like working with the body is essential. We cannot just talk about and recapitulate our stories over and over again. We have to get into the body in order to really heal in a sustainable way, in a, creatively. I just wanted to throw in your sustaining creativity. Why not?
Make the connection. Do it.
But truly, I think so many expect that, oh, well, I've already talked about this. Why is it still there? But getting into the body and working therapeutically with our creativity is essential to continue to grow.
Absolutely. Well, this is so juicy and I love it. But I want to ask, when it comes to creativity, what does it mean to you personally to be creative?
It's so interesting because, I think for so long I thought being creative meant that you had to be this like artist, and that I had to be like, I had to paint this picture, and I had to present this beautiful visual something. And, that has just not been my experience. I am not a visual artist. I do not have an ounce of talent in drawing, painting, anything. But for me, it has been a lot about my movement, my body, getting creative in how I move through the world, getting creative in how I take care of myself, creativity in cooking, in parenting, in finding balance in my life. That all of the, I write a ton, and that's my biggest outlet, I would say. I've done collages and stuff like that at different periods, but the creativity I feel like comes in my day to day, and that is in how I'm moving through my life on the whole. And in the aging process, like I've had these weird like pains all of a sudden. I'm like, what is going on? So learning how to get creative with my movement and in my body, and therefore it allows me to show up more fully in my life, from this place of spaciousness.
I love that. I love the recognizing how things are shifting and changing and how we have to get creative. Like sometimes the things that or the habits that we're used to, or the patterns we once did are no longer working, or they're not serving us in the same way they used to. And how do we get creative in those moments and recognize, oh, right, I'm being asked to do something in a new way. And there's uncertainty that comes in with that new way. How do I figure it out? And that's the beauty of creativity. Like creativity really happens a lot of the time in that uncertain space.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as soon as I have a moment of like feeling like I'm creatively blocked,
yes,
it's like those are the moments where, I just sit down and I write and I'm like, it's right there,
Yeah.
or I go into the kitchen, and I have to food prep now for a week because my son has baseball every day. And I'm like, okay, I got to get creative here about how we're going to stay fed and nourished throughout the week. So, because I need that in order to stay balanced. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like if one thing is not working, I'm learning to pivot in different ways to tap into that creative flow in a different way.
Right. Yeah. It sounds like also, this is how you really face creative challenges, that pivoting of recognizing the challenge or the block and then able to pivot or maneuver. I don't know if maneuver is the right word, but like it sounds like you're maneuvering around things.
I'm maneuvering.
Yeah. Are there any other ways that you recognize you face creative challenges?
Oh, all the time. Are you kidding me? I'm a full-time single mom and, I feel in the middle of a pandemic with a kid home. I mean, he happens to be at school today. It's like, oh, but,
right. Yeah.
but, I've really had to get creative in how to take care of myself and how to make sure that I am getting my needs met and, nourishing myself and resting. And so I feel like there's been, I don't know if they're blocks, but it's kind of been like obstacle after obstacle after obstacle that, as soon as I sit down, I'm in the creative flow and I'm writing, I'm working on a book. I've been working on it forever. My son comes downstairs and needs,
something.
15 things, well, there goes that creative flow,
Right.
So I feel like it's just this constant shifting. And I'm like, okay, maybe I turn on music while I'm cooking and dance while I'm preparing food to just keep the energy moving in some way. Yeah.
Yeah. I love those little reminders of like, oh, right, you could turn music on while you cook and move your body, or like, I just remember dancing around the kitchen, or like when my mom was cooking when I was little and I'd like roll in with my grocery cart and go shopping in the kitchen while she was cooking and like have that experience and exchange with the music on and like dance in the kitchen. Yeah. Brings up fun memories.
Yeah, every once in a while. I mean, my son, he's like tweeny. So, but every once in a while he comes down and he comes into the kitchen and he just starts busting a move with me. And then he realizes what he's doing. And he's like, oh God, I got to stop.
That was too much connection.
It's really cute. So
I love it. I love it. Those moments where we lose ourselves, or that, it's kind of that calling to show up in a different way.
Yeah.
And then really watching in tweens or young kids, I don't know what I would call it, but kind of like the reality check of like, oh, did I just do that? Should I have done that? I don't know.
The inhibition. Yes. We're very inhibited in our, so I do try to bring that out in my son, and I'll share with you just super quick. We were at a coffee shop this morning before I drove him to school. And I was so shocked. He was like dancing, like as we were standing in line. I didn't say a word, and singing. I mean, with the mask on, and there were tons of people in there. And I was just like, all I could do was just like beam, because normally he's so just like holds back so much. And I see that in kids, they don't want to be too much. And, and I think we bring that into our adulthood. And to me, it's suppression of our creativity, and he was just going for it. And it was so
I love seeing those moments, and I love experiencing those moments, and the too much and too big. Ooh, that's the pattern I'm like rocking right now.
Step out of that one.
Yes. Step out of that. Oh my gosh. Well, what is your earliest memory of being creative?
I love your questions. They're just obviously they make me laugh. I grew up as a dancer.
Okay.
So that has to be where I go to. 'Cause I can't really remember much else,
Yeah.
I think, I enjoyed art class in school, but I don't have a lot of memory of like creating art at home or anything like that.
Oh.
But I started dancing. I ice skated too as a
Oh.
kid. So it's always been through the body.
Mhm.
And I did, recitals and I did some competitions but at the same time, so it was creative, but there was also this sense of like being blocked at the same time. Like I couldn't be too big or too much
Oh.
or, that, and, hence where the eating disorder came from, so it
Mhm.
was like I was in my body, moving my body, but I really couldn't really be the whole of myself in
Mhm.
that creative flow. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I experienced it not through eating disorder, but similar, being too much, being too big, needing to contain things, and just having so much big, bright sparkliness as a kid. That was a lot for
Mhm,
parents. And
mhm.
that's why I was sent to trapeze school when I was 3. And
You were sent
so,
to trapeze school when you were 3?
oh yeah. Mhm.
Oh, wow. We need to talk about
Yeah.
that.
Right. We will.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that sense of, you know, there was in, I want to say in the 70s or 70s or 80s, NASA, this gentleman worked for NASA, and he was like the creativity something for NASA. And he did these studies with 5-year-olds and discovered that all of the 5-year-olds, well, 98% of the 5-year-olds he tested
Mhm.
scored off the charts in creative genius.
Mm.
And then he tested them again when they were 10, 15, and 15. And by the time they were 10, only 30% of them tested as creative geniuses. And then he,
Wow.
tested 200,000 adults. And of those adults that he tested, 2% of them
Oh,
tested
so
as creative
depressing.
genius. I know. And so I'm like rethinking about my own life and experiences and seeing where the ebbs and flows have happened and how much intention I have had to put in to show up in a bigger creative space and creative way. But it sounds like there was some of that happening for you too. And you're,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I still feel like I push through it on a daily
Mhm.
basis, just in how to show up in the world, how to be visible in the world, how to
Yeah.
promote my work, how to, um, be out there, but not be like too much, but also to let go of that bullshit story,
Oh my
and
God. Yes.
to really just, you know, be myself 100%. And I feel like there's so much like especially as women, we're like held back, we're stifled
Mhm.
from no blame. I mean,
Yeah.
there's probably some blame, but we're not going to go there. But
Right.
I feel like that is a big piece of my work is
Mm.
to that I've done with myself, but also with other women, is to give permission, to be in that creative, juicy, alive place,
Right.
So
Yeah, we're not a society that's like spend most of your time there.
right. No, we need to like tiptoe around
Yeah,
and
the eggshells
only
or the like,
say what we're
no,
supposed to
yes.
say. And,
Oh,
and
bleh.
unfortunately, social media is, it's what we're kind of like what we have to do right now because of
Mhm.
the life situation.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, it can be really toxic in that way.
Mhm.
It really requires a lot of inner strength to continue to show up, no matter who likes, who doesn't like, who unfollows,
Right.
who doesn't follow, who,
The
the
comparisons,
comparison,
oh
like
my,
the
yeah.
whole 9 yards. So, yeah.
Well, speaking of all of that, kind of on the flip
Yes.
side,
Yes. Yes.
who or what inspires you these days? recognize that, lots of things can cause challenge, but where do you get your inspiration from?
Yeah. Well, I get my inspiration from meeting women such as yourself. You and I had an instant
Yes.
connection through social media, and then
Yeah.
had a great conversation. I love seeing, I've got a handful of women in particular that I'm seeing really just showing up and being themselves and doing their work, and several other podcasters and coaches, and I have this beautiful friend who's an astrologer, and I've just watched her blossom over these last 5 years, and so that's what really inspires me, and that's who I'm really drawn to right now are people who are you can feel their authenticity. You can feel their passion. You can feel their aliveness. You can feel their genuine love for what they're doing. And that is what is keeping my juices flowing for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. I think it's so true. When you see someone's authentic self show up and their passion come through in what they're doing, it's really hard to be like, oh yeah, no, I don't want that. I'm like, no, give me more. Let's have a conversation. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
For
So
sure.
I'm really, I'm networking more than I ever have before with people, people who I see on Instagram or wherever that I'm like, really like their vibe. I just want to connect with them, and that's how I've gotten a lot of my guests for my podcast, and just having these rich conversations is what really keeps me going, especially we're living in isolation, so we have to be, connecting with those that are feeding that aspect of, even if it's through a screen.
Right.
So,
I find that those connections, when I have them, even through a screen, I'm like, it's so needed. That richness that fuels me and picks me up, and I'm able to bounce ideas off people. I am a very social person. And so I love to talk to people and think of creative things or bounce ideas off of them. So it has definitely been a challenge not having that in person, over the phone and such.
We are making the best of it. And, I just feel like, if anything, this has given us this opportunity to connect with people all over the world through these screens. And I feel like it has, I don't know about for you, but I've never stared at a screen so much in my life.
No.
But I'm like, in so many ways it's driving me nuts. But at the same time, I'm like, I've learned how to really feel people. I mean, I'm running a group through that is potent through the screen. And so I think we are learning how to get creative in meeting our needs for connection.
Absolutely. Yeah, that definitely. Yeah, it's so true. And it sounds like there's also, the community you're talking about and reaching out to people. And I mean, I hear you talking about it, how they're influencing or impacting. But when you think about kind of community and how it impacts your creativity, what are some things that come to mind?
Yeah. It's hard to articulate. There's just something, it's even in midst of our conversation right now, I can feel myself sitting more upright. I can feel myself more awake and more enlivened. Whereas I was exhausted this morning. I had to literally peel myself out of bed, And I was like, how am I going to do the interview? How I have clients after this, how am I going to, but it's like, it gets the energy moving in this very palpable way. And so when we choose to kind of push through any resistance, the exhaustion, the fatigue, the collapse, and we actually reach out and connect, there's just you can get so much more momentum. And that's been huge for me throughout this last year of being, in this bubble, a pandemic bubble, is to push through that, and to really feel in myself how it is, it shifts everything when I do. There's always a time and a place to retreat.
Right. Yeah.
And to rest. But there is something for me that is really palpable about, making those connections and feeling myself more upright. And of course, I can't even remember what your original question was.
No, I love it.
I answered it.
You totally did. And I love the answer, because it's one that I can viscerally experience too, of like sitting more upright, leaning forward, feeling kind of that energy up my spine space, and wanting that engagement and connection. And also, prior to us starting this, feeling a little bit like, oh, okay, here we go. And now being like, oh yeah, this is why I do this. This is how it works. This is amazing. Yeah. So I totally understand. And I think what a great reminder, because sometimes I can be like, oh, I don't want to do that. And then once I get into it, it's like, oh, right.
Yeah.
This is where the energy is. This is where the fuel, and this will keep me going for the rest of the morning until I have to, do something else. But yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing the body into it. It's important.
Of course. Always. Yes.
I'm so curious. So when we think about creativity and we think get off the path of least resistance, push boundaries, I'm really curious if there's something in your life that you've never tried that you want to, like, what's something new that you want to try for the first time?
Oh my goodness. Well, I don't know. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, what comes to me is like major travel. Like I want to, I want to see like the whole world. And to me, traveling is not, people are like, oh, travel. I've traveled alone in foreign countries before. It's not comfortable, but it really brings out this other aspect of oneself that I find really hard to tap into when we're just kind of going through our days in our comfortable environments. So to me, I'm a Scorpio. I love to dig deep, and I always love to challenge myself. And to me, like setting sail on a big travel adventure feels, especially right now when we've been homebound so much.
Right.
I think that's, I want to, I told my son, I really want to go on a 2-week camping expedition this summer to get a camper and attach it to my car and to hit the coast, of California. So it's stuff like that, I feel like, is what keeps the creativity flowing for me. And again, it's not always comfortable or easy per se, but I think it challenges me enough that brings me to kind of the next level.
Yeah. So. Nice. I love it. I love the travel. I know I'm itching to travel and do more and experience. I miss that international experience, the culture, community that comes with that too. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I feel ya. Like imagining what it will be like, where will you go first, that kind of thing. Yeah. Well, talking about creativity, I think can spark creativity, but when you think of encouraging others to find creativity in their lives, what are some ways that you think people can flex those muscles to find creativity in their life?
Yeah. That's a good question. To me, it's like step by step, and it's moment by moment, and to just start to try just something different. Even you drive the same way every day, take a different route, just mix it up a little bit. You say you have the story going on that you're not a writer. Just sit down and write morning pages. I love morning pages. Sit down and write them, try it, give yourself a week and just try it. Try cooking a new dish, look up a recipe, bake something that's delicious, but to me, it's like, I love the neuroplasticity of shifting, like literally that we can shift our neural pathways. And so I feel like we can do that in so many different ways, and that really feeds our creativity and our creative expression. And just to remind people, I mean, to me, it's like, you don't have to be an artist to be creative. You know, it's like, I feel like they've become lumped, but they're so not, you know, it's about, creating some new opportunities, some new pathways in your state of being, in your body, in your home, like rearrange your house, clean out a closet, you know, I mean, these are creative projects, you know? So I think it's like opening your eyes and just doing one new thing, trying one new thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And the morning pages, I'm actually doing a program right now where we're writing morning pages. And I'm like, oh man, yesterday I was like, oh, my wrist is so sore from doing it. And today it was much easier. But for people who don't know what morning pages are, would you share a little bit about them?
Sure. I love them. And they are a big component of the program I run as well. So Julia Cameron wrote a book called The Artist's Way forever ago. And they are an essential component of her work and her program. And if you have not done The Artist's Way, it is a must do. That's a big commitment. I get it. I actually did it again for the last 3 months of 2020, which was such a saving grace. It really helped me get through the end of that year.
I bet.
Get things moving. But anyhow, morning pages are intended to do in the morning, obviously. And you get like a cheap spiral notebook from Walgreens and you just write 3 solid pages. And, you know, she says, don't worry about punctuation. Don't worry about spelling. Don't worry about what it looks like. Don't worry about what you're saying. It's really literally like an emotional dump in the morning, you know? And sometimes, I mean, there's some mornings where I'm like, blah, 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 blah. I have nothing to say. And then next thing I know, like this epiphany comes through.
Right.
So, yeah, I just feel like, you know, we wake up, how we start our days is so important. And I'm a meditator. So I meditate and then I sit and I write my morning pages and it just gets me in the zone. And it does allow me to access this depth in myself. And you know, theoretically, I carry with me through the days. I mean, it's not always pretty, but, but you know, there is something about also pushing through during the morning pages, as you well know.
Yes.
Like filling 3 pages is not always easy. But there is something about getting to those 3 pages that really, it's a process and it's really profound. So
yeah. Thanks for sharing it. I think that's awesome. And The Artist's Way I did years ago. And yeah, it's a commitment and it's so great to connect to yourself in that fashion and in that way. So definitely. Well, it has been such a treat chatting with you. And I just have one final question.
Sure.
What is your secret to creativity?
I don't know why you make me laugh. Compassion is what comes to me.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Compassion and allowing myself to be who I am, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like it's like the opposite of force.
Yeah. Compassion and allowing. Oh my God. Those are new ones. I love it. This is one of my favorite questions. Like, what are people's secrets to creativity? I mean, not that there's things to not share with others, but I think it makes people think about, oh yeah, what is my secret? What is that thing that I keep close to myself that creativity really connects to? So, well, I love it. Thank you so much. And if people want to learn more about you or the programs that you do or coaching, how would they go about doing that?
Well, they can go to my website, which is embodymylife.com. And there's information about everything there. I am fairly active on Instagram, and that is at embody_life. And I have currently, I'm doing the one-on-one body center coaching all through Zoom. And I have a women's group that is running called the Acceptance Circle. That is a combination of online modules. It's kind of my baby program. It takes you through this progression. It's a 90-day program. The women get one-on-one sessions, and we have bi-monthly groups, which have been profound. So the next one starts May 1st.
May 1st. Super.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so
you.
much. And you have a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Remind us of the podcast. So sorry.
No, I forgot. Are you kidding? And you're coming on soon. You're
Yes.
my guest soon. Yes. So I have a podcast called Embodied and Awake. That's super fun. I started it last June as a little quarantine project, and it's just blossomed into this just fun platform of sharing very real, authentic stories. And it's been primarily women, but I've started to venture into having men and doing, I'm going to have a couple couples come on, and we're talking about love a lot and relationships. And so it's a good one. So Embodied and Awake. And that is, I'm on Spotify and Apple and all Google Play and all those platforms.
All the platforms. Excellent. Wonderful. Well, we'll put all of that in the show notes so people can find you. And thank you so much for joining me.
So fun. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.